I wanted to first ask you about the human presence on the screen, because even though there's characters and there's that are, like in a more traditional film, there are characters, but they're almost archetypes, I feel. And also the camera itself has a presence almost human. And so I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about how you conceive, human bodies on the screen, and also about in relation to the camera as well.
Yes. First, I think I will apologize because I think the sound was a little bit too loud, and I'm sorry because I asked the sound to be loud, so it was too much, probably. So sorry for your ears. But anyway, well, it's a complex question in fact, because it's a question of cinema and the relation that you have with the actors and the body and how you organize, in fact, the relation with them through the possibility of the mise en scène. And most of my movies, I frame all the time. I have the camera on my shoulder. There is no DP. For this movie, I made the light also. So I have a direct contact with the actors. There is no so much distance because I am inside of the scene. I am not doing shot in the idea that after that, with the editing, I'm building a kind of a continuity with space and time that we usually do. This kind of organization of the space and how you put the actors into this organization of the space and the time, it's not at all the way that I'm working. I'm inside of the scene. I'm not outside. I'm not looking combo, watching if there is any shadow, a problem with the sun. All of this is absolutely not my concern. And I think it's the cinema that I try to reach is a cinema in which the body, my body, is really inside of the process of getting the emotion or the sensation that I want to grab from the actors, from the body of the actors, from the hand, for instance, in this movie, from the light, from the sound, from the colors. All of these elements who belong totally to cinema allow me to go inside of this possibility of taking the story not first, but taking the story through the element of cinema itself, through the possibility of the sensation. And I think it's a big difference, probably, between cinema, as we can say, organizing a space and time continuity, than my movies, where the continuity and the time and the space, it's much more destroyed, and what I try to reach is much more a certain kind of intensity of light, intensity of sound, intensity of movement of the camera, intensity of the relationship that I can have with all the elements, not only the actors, but for the movie, with the mountain, with the lake, with the snow, through the trees. All of these elements, in fact, built a certain kind of body. It's not only the body, of the actor, it's the body, the movie as a body, in fact.
And in that case, how do you, because obviously it's a kind of a sensorial process, but there is, for example, you have several scenes that are out of focus, and that's a very rational decision. So it's
no,
but you have to do it.
No, it's not a rational decision. No, I don't do it. It's my body doing it. I never do it with the lens.
Oh, it's
I
like
lose.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I lose. I frame. So now it's focus. But I'm not doing this to make unfocus. Because if I'm doing this to make unfocus, it's a kind of decision. And I think that movies, at a certain moment that I make, escape from the decision. If it's not escape from decision, I can't. if I control everything each second, like, you know, to be in the position of the director, as we can say. But I can't do the movie because it's not giving to me the possibility to access to the feeling. So I am with the camera, and the actor is there, and I don't know, and I look this that you are doing, and I go to your hand, and then I hear maybe the noise of the wind in the trees. So I go to the trees, and then I go back to your face. And at this moment, maybe I stay for a few seconds, and then I walk to your face. And when I walk to your face, the focus disappears. So now it's non-focus. But it's unfocused in the movement itself. It's not unfocused by deciding the unfocused things, you know? It's totally a different process.
And how do you, because this is, you're embodying the camera in that sense, and how do you get the other actors to be in the same,
it's a relation that I built with them. I made a lot of time to cast. It takes me a long period of time to cast the actors. For this movie, I can tell you, first I was thinking that I'm going to shoot in Finland. So my producer organized a co-production with Finland. So I've been to Helsinki and I begin a cast. And I cast all the actors of the movie. So I go back to Paris and the cast was done and the actor was done and the place where we are going to shoot was done. Everything was done. So I went back with my producer in Helsinki to fix the last things. And I arrive in the restaurant where they are waiting. All the actors were waiting. And I look at them. And it's hard because, but you mustn't tricher. You mustn't trick, thank you. You mustn't trick at this moment. I saw all these actors and I suddenly realized that it's not my movie. It's not what I want. It was a mistake. I made a strong mistake. So I said to my producer, it wasn't even not necessary to say one word to her because she looked at me and she understands also. So we decided to stop everything. And we stopped everything in Finland. And we stopped all the movie, all the actors, everything. So I'm back to Paris and she said, where do you want to go? Because I was in Sweden, I was in Finland, I was everywhere to try to find the actors. And I was sure that it's in Russia. And I say, I want to go to Moscow. And so we organize a cast in Moscow. And I find the actors. So when I find the actors, I mean, it's such a strong desire that I have for them. It's such a long process to access to them. So at the end, it built a very strong relation with them. Like, I don't know, it's a kind of love relation, I mean. At this moment, I can go very far with them. I can bring them very far in my movie, you know. And so they are able to do a lot of strong things, physically, psychically also. And but it's a long process. That's what I try to explain. You know, it's not something that it's a long process to access to the movie. But when I shoot, I go very, very fast and go very quick.
How does that process with the actor start? Because clearly when you try to create in any moment in life, when you're trying to create a sense of community with people, generally these are years of knowing people and so on, but when you make a film you don't have that possibility, right? Like you cast and then soon after you have to...
In this case, I tell you two things. The first thing, I work with Russian actors and Republic Czech actresses. And you know probably all the difficulties between Russia and Czech Republic. And they can't speak together because one speaks Russian, even if in Czech Republic you speak a little bit Russian, they don't speak Russian. But in the movie, they are brother and sister. So when we arrive on the set, they can't say one word, these actors, to each other. But they are brother and the sister in the story. And this is a very concrete situation. It's not telling to the actor any kind of psychological stuff. That's bullshit. You know, saying to the actor, you look, this scene is very important, you are getting angry because, I don't know, you feel bad with what he says to you, and it don't help the actor. If you say that to the actor can't play for you because you put them in a very strange place where they have to deal with all of this, but you don't give to them the possibility to get inside of the scene. So to get to the actor the possibility to be inside of the scene, you have to make them in a very concrete space and feeling with their body, not with their mind. Actors should stop thinking when they play. Because if they think, they can't play. And if you think too much, you can't shoot. Thinking, it's before. Shooting, it's something else for me. Shooting, you know, Caesar says, when you make war, stop think. Make the war. Don't think anymore. And it's the same. So the actor, you have to put him in a certain situation where he can feel what is necessary to feel. So for instance, the first scene that you have seen when he's cutting the tree, it was the first day of the shooting, and there was all the crew, and I was in the mountain, and there was a colline,
A hill.
hill, with all the trees, and full of snow. And I say to my actor, Dima, okay, go up to the hill, and we know that there is a tree that we can cut because we work with the people of the forest. And I say to him, cut the tree. So he takes the axe, you know, and they go up on the hill, and he begins to cut the tree. But I don't shoot. He's cutting the tree, I mean. And at a certain moment, and it was so strong to hear the sound of the axe on the tree, and we hear the wind in the trees, and we were there with all the crew and the camera, and suddenly I run like crazy, climbing the hill, you know, and I arrive near my actor out of breath, totally exhausted, all the crew totally exhausted, you know, and I begin to shoot. But at this moment, it wasn't an actor cutting the tree. It was an actor cutting the tree, but it was Dima, you know, cutting the tree. It's different than if you put the actor, you put the camera, you make everything, and then clack, and cut the tree, okay, boom.
Right.
You know, that not make sense. Even the actor can make something fake. It's the paradox of cinema. What is beautiful in cinema, it's totally an invention. It's totally not true, but it mustn't be fake. If it's fake, there is no cinema. There is all these Hollywood bullshit films. You know, all these stupid things. They made movies like cars. So they just have one wheel, two four wheels, one, and they know how to do that. It's the same things. Boom, 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 boom. And the sound, it's the same things. You can see the movies, the same movies. If you see, I don't know, if you see Chaplin, if you see Tarkovsky, if you see Fritz Lang, if you see Murnau, if you see Godard, if you see Pasolini, it's, each time it's a different world. Each time it's something coming out from them. It's not coming out from the industry. So if you want to make movies, you have to make movies with yourself first, because this is really the real question about cinema. It's not about knowing any kind of technique process.
You know, your previous films are considered, let's say, quite violent, at least in terms of the subject matter. And this film, I find it incredibly sweet. It's like a, you know, brother and sister and sweet family relations, and yet it is a very violent film in some ways. But the violence in this film for me comes from the form, let's say, the sound, the close-up, so can you talk a little bit about what that means to you, the violence in some way? I don't know if it's a question that can be answered. But
yes, it can be answered, because the violence, I mean, the relation with the violence, I don't know if it's violence, but it's a relation with a very difficult part that we have inside of ourselves. And it's a part that you access when you dream. Sometimes you wake up and you say, why I'm dreaming this, you know. And we are connecting with this strong, you know, violence in a way of the human king is inside of this, you know. So I suppose that some of my movie I try to approach this kind of violence, you know. But I think art is really deeply connecting to this violence, and even in the way that, for instance, if you are looking Pollock, if you are looking at how Pollock is painting, there is a kind of violence in the way that he dropped the paint. I don't know, maybe it gives an access to a part of yourself. It's a very difficult part of yourself, but it's a very important part of yourself. And for instance, I read a lot Dostoevsky these last years, and Dostoevsky is full of violence and craziness, and you know. But he tried to access to the soul, to the human soul, you know, in the complexity of the human soul. And you're right, because in this movie, the violence is also in the way that he is shot, is edited, is the sound, the light, and also the stories, because Alexei is dealing with all these epileptic crises, and it's quite difficult for him. So, and there is a kind of violence also of nature itself, you know. So, yeah.
Can you talk perhaps a little bit about sound, because sound is treated very differently in this film, and also you spoke about how the actors didn't speak French, and so I assume a lot of what they're saying is dubbed later, and so is the majority of the film sound not shot in sync?
Yes, I never shoot. I never use the sound of the shooting.
So all of it is reconstructed.
Yes. Even the acts, it's totally reconstructed.
Okay.
So I shoot, because when I shoot, I talk a lot to the actors.
Can you describe a bit of that? Because I've seen it in the making of, but it's so strange.
Yes, so I shoot. I don't know if I shoot with you. Sometimes I put music on the set, very loud music, so we can't even hear each other. And but when I shoot, I talk. I don't give explanation. I just talk, you know, and I say things simple. Move, come on, move. So you begin to move, and I follow you, and you know, it's just like an organic process, and the sound. So after the image, I do the sound, no images. So it's only the sound, you know. And then I made with the sound engineer. I asked to him to make a lot of son sol, only sounds, no. For instance, there is maybe 20 different type of snow, the way they walk in the snow. So it's all this sound is coming from real sound of people walking in the snow, but not during the shoot. And then after that, there is a lot of work of editing of the sound, and then the mixing process. So, for instance, for the first scenes, maybe there is 15 tracks, 15 tracks. For the axes, for instance, I put the ding, some, so there's a lot of it's very sophisticated, but when you hear the movie, it seems the sound that you can.
But at the same time, it's not always realistic sound,
No.
let's say. Like sometimes when they talk, you can feel that sense that they're almost whispering. They're
Yes.
not, but they're not like next to
No,
each other.
that's true.
So your relationship between how you're listening to something is different. It's not realistic sound in that
it's
sense,
true.
I mean,
It's
sometimes.
true, yeah. Because the sound the sound is maybe the most important thing in cinema, much more than the pictures. The sound is a full world that you have inside of your mind. And when you are kids, it's the first things, maybe the first sensation that you get of the world is through the sound, even when you are in the belly of your mother. The sound is something very important. And also, you can't stop the sound, really. So you can close your eyes and it's black, but you can close your ears. You can close your ears if you put like this, but it's always open. It's always here. So you should work with the sound separately from the picture. You should do things only with the sound. And to see how you access to a scene through the sound, and not through the dialogues, and not only through the sense of the scene. I don't know how you are working together, but yeah, it's very important to... because if you wrote, I don't know, dialogues, it's already a way that you put the scene in a certain kind of, dialogues. It's important, but it's something. It's much more important. It's how you access to the emotion, how you access to the sensation, how you access to your feelings through the possibility of cinema, only the possibility of cinema, and yeah.
And you were saying that you also did the lighting for the film.
Yeah.
So how do you approach
Well,
lighting?
I have the idea, when I prepare the movie, I prepare very precisely. So I choose a camera. It's a very cheap camera, in fact, at the beginning, Panasonic, a little Panasonic. But this camera gave me the opportunity to move the gamma. The gamma is a courbe qui définit ou définit the kind of the sensibility of the camera itself. So, well, I made different tests, and at the end, I see that in my viewfinder, it was in black and white, the viewfinder. There was no color for the viewfinder. But I see the nature of the contrast, and then I make all the different essays with a 35 millimeter print. And at the end, I have a perfect idea of what I see and what is going to be on the screen through the 35 millimeters. So when I shoot, I can really adjust the opening of the diaphragm.
The aperture,
yeah. Yeah, and the aperture. And also to organize the light, I know that I want very, very no light, more or less. But there is some light on, and we shoot more in studio. Everything is in studio.
So all the indoor scenes with
Yes.
the house.
Yes, it's in studio.
And it's very soft lighting, but very
Yes, all the
minimal.
wall was black, more or less black, and on the sound there is kind of du sable, sand. So when they walk, it makes this strange sound, thing. So it was like, it's a crazy place. I mean, it's just like to be inside of the mind.
But what lights do you use within the studio? Or how do you?
I work with some neon, some neon, more or less like this, and also little light with a kind of du papier qui défait la lumière. I don't know how I can say that.
Diffusion, yeah.
Yeah, diffusing light, and but it was not a lot of light, so very, very few light. Yeah.
Do you have any questions? Yeah.
How do you reconcile with your production, which is physical, organic, instinctual, with the post-production, which is more critical, and you're evaluating your scenes, and how do you reconcile these two?
Yeah, because it's moment. It's a very different moment in the process of making the movie.
Yeah.
So you're totally right. When I shoot, when I prepare a lot, every detail, everything. When I shoot, I forget everything, even the script. Sometimes I didn't know what I shoot. And when I edit, I have a material in front of me. It's nothing else. It's this. I can't imagine now a beautiful princess if I haven't the beautiful princess in front of me, So I have the material. So it's another way to access to the movie. But if you shoot what you have written, you execute something. So it's weak. And if you edit what you have shoot in the idea that you are going to edit in the way that you are shoot, it's weak also. You have to reconsider the movie at each moment of the production of the movie. When you write, when you cast, when you shoot, when you edit, even in a way when you make the mixing. The movie is always a very alive material. It's not a decision only. The movie is more strong than you. Believe me, I know that it's more strong. The movie is more strong than you when you are doing it. For instance, for a lot of time it happens that I have beautiful scenes, incredible beautiful scenes, but when I edit it, when I put the scene in the movie expels, don't want this scene. It's strange because you say, no, look, it's so beautiful, so glorious, all the things. No, put it away, And the movie needs something. You have to listen what the movie needs. Yeah. It seems quite mystical, but it's not.
Can you talk a bit about something that many times for many filmmakers is essential, but it's something that you haven't mentioned, and I don't know how you feel about it, is just the idea of storytelling. What is story? What do you think about story?
I like stories, but The question is not so much between storytelling and not storytelling. The question is about cinema. You can have very strong cinema with very strong storytelling, of course, and you can have very strong cinema where the story is less important, or the story is very different. For instance, if you take The Mirror of Tarkovsky, what is the story? There is no story, it's a ruins. And that's very beautiful because Tarkovsky said that he edited the movie 7 times in 35 millimeters at this moment, 7 times. And 7 times it was just like nothing. And at the end, he changed everything and he finds the movie. So the story is not what drives the movie for him. But for Hitchcock, for instance, it's only the story. And it's so strong because the question is how the story and the way that the story is realized, is made. This is the main question. If you wrote the story and then after that you say, maybe how I'm going now to do the movie. You have the story and you do it's finished. There is no movie. Forget. Go to fish. It's better. Because when you have the script, when you wrote the script, it's in the same movement how you are going to shoot. It's a one process, It's not. So the storytelling, I like story a lot. I didn't feel that I don't like stories, but
no. In fact, Unluck has a story that and things happen.
So the stories are not telling exactly in the same way that I worked once with a screenwriter in Los Angeles. I was a project. After some studio canal in France say, oh, we would like you to make a big movie, in America. So the idea was to make a movie between Los Angeles and Tijuana. So I began to write a script. And then I have to meet a screenwriter in Los Angeles. It was the most funny thing that happens to me. They arrive and they talk in terms of pages. Page 1, page 10, page 12, page 25. at page 10 must arrive the first event. And the character needs to be confronting to this first event. Page 22, this event happen again, but in a different way, so the first character can meet now the other principal character. Page 25, and that's crazy. I mean, it's just, you know, pure une machine, a mécanisme. It's just like if you say to Cézanne, you can't paint an apple in blue because the apple is not blue. An apple is not blue, but Cézanne paints apple, blue apple. That's art. I mean, and cinema is an art. I don't know. Maybe I'm too much enthusiastic. But cinema is an art. It's nothing else.
Yeah.
You mentioned before that you kind of lose yourself when you are shooting, like in the scene. So I'm wondering if your movie lives by itself. What would you say about the obsession that there is in close-ups of the hands? Because there is a lot. I count like 30, maybe more. So is the obsession with the hands your obsession or the movie?
It's mine. Yeah. And it's funny because I haven't this idea about hands, you know, and I wasn't beginning the movie telling myself I want to shoot hands, because it never happened like that. As I said to you, the question is a very precise question. You must forget any kind of will to access to what you want, because what you want you don't know. If you know what you want, you can't do it. If, for instance, you are writing a book, and if you begin to write the book because you know what story you are going to tell, you can't write. It's not writing. It's journalism things or things like that. But writing, it's something else. Writing, you have to be in front of a huge, you know, vertigo, and you have to jump in something that you don't know. And it's the rhythm of the sentence, the rhythm of the words, the alliteration between the words. Everything is da-da-da-da, da-da-da, it's coming and coming and coming, and you write at this moment. But if you say, I'm going to write the story of a young woman who tried to get a ticket for Africa, it's finished. I mean, because I say, okay, first scene, the young woman, so I have to describe who is she and how is she, and it's finished. But if I begin to write, I don't know, about the way she walks, about just this, the way she walks. But I don't know what she's doing, but she walks. And how she, and the rhythm of her shoulder. And now I am in her back when I write, and I see the rhythm of shoulder. And the grace of the movement of the hands, and you know, and you access to the thing. So when I was shooting, it was the same, because I was shooting, and suddenly I see that the hands begin to be more and more important for me, and I asked the actors after that to, for instance, because the mother is blind in the movie, you know, so I have this idea of the blindness, and you access to the face only through the hands, so, and it became more and more an obsession for me. But it's coming from it's my obsession, but it's coming from the movie. You know what I mean? It's not a decision.
Okay. Yeah.
So, hi. As a young filmmaker, like when you first started out, how did you yourself like form your own perception of what film was compared to what conventionally film is supposed to be?
Yes. So when I was young filmmaker, I made a film school in Brussels, like you here, and at the beginning, for everybody it's different, you know. But what is very important in my sense is to watch movie, and try to watch a lot of movies, and to watch movies, for instance, but I'm sure Nicolas can give you, all these names of the movies, very important. And maybe to watch precisely the movie and to see how, for instance, you take Orson Welles movies, and you just look the editing in Orson Welles movies, how he cut in the movement, and try to take 3 or 4 cuts like this, not more, and you just look in 4 cuts, tick, 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 how everything is drive, the movement of the actors, the movement of the camera, the nature of the light, the position of the camera, the nature of the lens. All these things you can see in 4 or 5 shots how Orson Welles is doing this. And you can learn a lot by looking films, and also, I think you can learn a lot by doing yourself films. You should take the camera and begin to shoot stuff and begin to edit these things, even if it's not finished, even if it's not, perfectly done. But you see all the questions, because at the beginning I haven't any idea of the questions that I'm going to be confronted with, I've just begin like this, and it takes for me a long period of time before to be able to go inside of my movies, of my cinema. So it's hard to give you one answer, but watching movies is definitely something important. And not watching movies like that, but watching movies. I tell you a story of my professor. The first thing that he did with us, he put a piece of wood here, and we have a camera there. We have a 16mm camera, and we have tracks like that. And we put the camera there, and then we begin to make this movement, okay? On the piece of wood. And then we put the light coming from the right side. And we make the same movement on the piece of wood, okay? So now there is a shadow here. And then we put the light there, and no more light here. So the shadow is coming from there. And then we put the light here. And then the camera, we make things like that, and then, so it's not the same movement of the traveling, okay? And then after that, we make a pan. And all these little elements, we go to the editing room, and we put this traveling to the piece of wood. And at this moment, we put a piece of dialogue. Hey, honey, what you're doing today? Cut. Another piece of dialogue, okay? So you put different piece of dialogue, and you see, oh, hey, honey, what you're doing today with this movement. But if I do the pan, hey, honey, what you're doing today, it's not the same feeling. It's not the same sensation. You don't access to the same kind of storytelling precisely. And it's a very concrete relation between all these elements. So after that, you don't put a piece of wood, but you put Marilyn Monroe, or I don't know. But the question, you are filmmakers. So the question is this kind of elements that you are going to use. You are going to make this kind of combination with all these elements. And that's what you have to learn. And it could take a long period of time. And it not make you any kind of security about making movies, because even if you know all of this, it's something else again to do the movie. Yeah.
I wanted to go back a little bit to the film and ask, you were talking about how you shoot in a very perhaps camera embodied and sensorial way, but at the same time you have to repeat scenes, right? Like not the first time.
Repeat jump, never.
So like you don't have like the second take
Never.
or. But how do you manage to always get it?
Never. I arrive. Okay, it's the morning. You are the actor, okay? The crew is there. I arrive, I take the camera, I begin to shoot. Boom. And the crew arrive, wow, what's happening? Da, 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 da. And tack. That's it. I don't rehearse.
But you do second takes, that's what I mean.
No, I never do this again because it's no good.
So you just
So I go
you
there now.
reconfigure it every time.
And now I shoot here.
And
No,
with the yeah, of course, but because it's not you and an actor, it's a configuration of a lot of people.
Yeah, but everybody is there with me, and they follow me. They are just like, you know, a dragon. We are a dragon, you know?
Yeah.
You have to see, Corinne made a making of a lake.
Yeah, you should share with us, and I can show you some
Yeah, so you can
some
show
making
me.
of scenes. It's pretty peculiar to see the style.
But really, it's, for instance, no, it's true, for instance, because it's not the question, as I said to you, it's not the question to make the shot and to have the idea of the editing when I shoot. So I say, okay, I'm going to make this shot, now I cut, now I make a shot like this, and I cut, and now you are going to stand up and to go there. So in this shot, you stand up and you go there, and I follow you, and cut, and now I have to make this other shot because maybe when I edit, I can cut this and this, so I make the continuity and the space and the time and blah, blah, everything. No, never. I never do that. Because I begin and I shot and I'm here and then suddenly I go there and maybe I go back and maybe I stopped shooting with you and there is flowers there and I get crazy with the flowers and then I go back to you. And you know what I mean? It's a rhythm. It's a rhythm. You have to find your own rhythm because you have a rhythm inside of you. You have a kind of tempo. I don't know which tempo you have. Each of you have a certain kind of tempo. You have to find this tempo, to know this. It takes time to approach this, to understand what kind of tempo you have, you know? But you can do also a very strong movie by putting the camera there, like Ozu, 1 meter from the sun, from no movement, the actor totally still, and it's pure masterpiece.
Yeah, no, of course.
So it's your own way to do. That's what you have to find, step by step.
There is very little information
Yes.
in all of this. Like we watch, I don't know how long it was what we watched, but there is probably, if you were to say it in the most blunt information terms, is very little.
Yes.
It's something else what's happening.
Yes, it's something else, yeah.
And it's almost at some point repetitive. There's a repetitive nature, but it's not. It's kind of building.
Yeah. And the sound is very important because the sound builds all the tension coming up, you know. Always there's this kind of sound. And you have the feeling that something is going to happen, but so yeah, you build, I mean, you decide the world in which you want to be involved, you know, but for this movie there is some kind, it's a very violent scene, but I mean, it's totally, of course, the possibility of the cinema give to you the access to this, you know what I mean?
Can you say how you made the first scene that we saw, the black and white?
It's done in the totally darkness with no light at all. It's with a thermal camera. So it's the body itself who gives
Heat.
the heat, and the temperature gives black or white or gray zone on the body. But it was totally in the darkness, so there is no light. Nobody can see each other.
But you can see through
Me
the...
too, yeah, because I was framing. So.
This is less relevant, but how did you do the whole scene with the dogs?
Well, it was just crazy moment because I can tell you how funny it was in a way. Because the dogs and the guy with the dogs, when I shoot them, always I say to them, you have to follow the actor, you know, with the dogs. But in each large scale that I do, I see, I don't know why, they are going like that, you know. They are not following the actors. So they go with the dog like this, and I say, no, no, follow him, but impossible to make them follow the actors. I don't know why. So I decided to shoot this, also with another way, maybe with...
You're getting closer to them.
Yeah, making it closer, and it was tough to shoot, and there was an incredible stuntman coming from Paris. This dog was very cute, very soft, but when they attacked, there was terrible, and they were so powerful. But the last shot is of course with the stuntman. The actor couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So, because he must to know this dog very well to be able to have all this dog on him, Yeah.
It seems that you are always looking for these very nature challenging scenes, like you said, like wolf, but also the animality. I think the other on Lac that we could see the relationship with the horse, and in these with the relationship with the dogs, but also the women that moves at the beginning of the scene. Could you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge question, this question of animality and the relation between us and animality, the relation between humanity and animality. And what is fascinating me with the animals, there is a very beautiful sentence of Henri Michaud, which is a French poet, probably you know. He wrote about the jump of the tiger. And when the tiger jumps on the prey, there is no doubt. No doubt. It jumps. There is no hesitation. He's not telling himself, maybe I shouldn't jump because it's not good. Morality, I shouldn't do it. Leave this nice prey living. No, he feels hungry and he jumps. And it's a pure necessity and it's a possibility to be inside of the world, an incredible possibility. We can't, because we are human, because we have the language, because we know that we are going to die, because we put a lot of symbolism system between us and the cows, like the language precisely. But the animal, no. The animal jump because it's the necessity of the jump. And he says, who is able to live 10 tiger seconds? Who can feel 10 tiger seconds? Because it's impossible. We are stuck in this humanity, and the animals are in another perception of the reality. And I'm totally amazed about this question. In my last movie, you're right about animals, because my last movie that I just finished, there's a long scene with fish, moving like that. Just the movement of the fish. Because it's gorgeous, and it's here, and it's absolutely a pure presence, There's no question about their presence. They are there. When you shoot an animal, the animal is there, It's not playing to be something else, you know what I mean? So for me, it's something strong, and it gives a lot to know about ourselves, to see animals. And and I like also their beauty and their luxury,
Yeah.
Have you ever considered using doing animation or putting special effects in any of your films?
Well, I can't, and I tell you why. Because what makes me active when I make movies is precisely to film what is here, what is there. I like to film, for instance, if there is this tree that you have seen in the wind. It was real, this wind and these trees and this light and it was here, and it gave me a lot of strong feelings. If I'm going to process with post-production things like animation or like special effect, I lose the sense of the real. The real is not only the reality. I would like to try to be precise on this point. For instance, if you see a field of flower, beautiful flower, tulip, for instance, or roses, in the light of the dust, it's here in front of you, and it's strong, this presence, because it puts you in front of something that you can't explain. There is no reason for these flowers, no intentionality in these flowers. They are just there, and you are in front of this. And this is the most important and crazy thing that we have to live as humans, because we are in the middle of a big chaos, because the world, in a way, there is no intentionality in the things. And to be confronted to that, with the possibility of the cinema, I have the feeling that I can access to something of these real things, of this chaos, So it's not at all a special effect, using these tools to make believe about something, like if the tree is moving. It's not a tool. It's a relation that I have with the camera and with what it is in front of me.
How do you feel that applies in relation to something like light? So you said you did the lighting for this particular piece. So how does that idea of finding it, not creating it, and you kind of stepping back in a way apply when you're doing something like light, which is in a lot of ways very intentional?
Because it's not in sense of creating, it's the sense of finding is the sense that, for instance, the last movie I made, I have the idea that the light should move all the time. It's not fixed light, So we decide with the DP. I have a DP, a very nice DP coming from Canada, because it was a co-production with Canada. So we decide to put a ring light around the lens, a big ring light like that, of LED, and on a dimmer. And so when I move, I can say to my DP, okay, now increase the light. So the light begin to be more bright, And I say to her, okay, open the aperture, open more the aperture. So when I was shooting and when I was walking, for instance, to the actress, the light on her face was becoming more and more white, and and it increased the possibility that I have when I film. It increased my desire of filming. So it's not creating in the sense of this, to decide, I don't know, this before. It was finding it from the movement itself of the movie,
And in a way, I guess what you're saying is that the light allows you better to find.
Yes,
what is
absolutely, it's true. The light, the unfocus, the rhythm of the camera, the way that I cut also. It's very important, the moment that you cut. When you shoot with the actor, you have to be very aware, like an animal precisely. You have to be very aware of the actor, and you have to cut at a certain moment. For them, it's very important. If you cut not at the good moment, it's like if you cut before, I don't know, if you eat a good cake and somebody takes the cake before you have finished it. You know what I mean? You have to cut when the cake is finished, in a way. Or to cut before she eats the cake. Or in the middle, if you want to put her in a... And then you give another cake, and then you cut at the end of the cake. And, you know what I mean? So it's... You have to drive the rhythm. You have to drive the tempo on the set. This is very important also, if I can say. You have to put your tempo on the set, because a lot of the set, everybody are boring, you know? They are waiting for the, I don't know what, the light is not there, and the sun is not ready, and the actor is not make up, and everybody's wait, house, and then we make the shot, and everybody's, you know, and next shot, oh my God, what time is it, you know? So you have to put a certain kind of rhythm on the set. Because the set is the set. Okay, the last story, I tell you.
As many as you want, yeah.
The last one. When I was a young, I have the chance, I don't know if it's a chance, I have the chance to go to, I don't know if you know Fellini, Federico Fellini, a very important filmmaker. And I had the chance to go on the set of Fellini in Rome. And I arrived on the set, and he made incredible movies with Marcello Mastroianni, and I don't know if you have seen any kind of Fellini movies, but it's very exuberant, it's very full of life, full of energy, full of vitality, full of love, full of flesh, full of everything, you know. And you feel this in the movies of Fellini. And I arrive in Cinecittà, and it's a little door like this, because the huge studios are totally closed, but there's a little door to get in. And I push the door, you know, and I arrive. And suddenly, it was inside, I was inside of the Fellini movie. It was already, all Fellini was there. Because I walk, and everything was fake. He put, you know, plastic on the ground, and with people doing like this to make the wave of the sea. And there was palms, and people are moving the palm like that. And it was incredible, because he was there, and he said at a certain moment, okay, motore, Jack, azioni. And it was just crazy, because it was so much noise. And he put winds, you know, with huge ventilator, you know, like this, and everything. The set was totally crazy. And it was a film of Fellini, you know, because the energy must be on the set. The energy must be in front of your camera. You are not going to put the energy later, because it's fake, as I said to you. And it mustn't be fake. And I'm exhausted.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.